According to the bold and the beautiful, B&B, spoilers, Electra Forrester, Linnea Grace, may throw an adoption curveball at Will Spencer, Crew Morrow, forcing him to relinquish Luna Nozawa's, Lisa Yamada, kid to a new family. Although Electra is attempting to hold on to her love for Will and keep their relationship alive, Luna's pregnancy is plainly bothering her. It's simple for Will to make promises and focus on Electra right now, but that will become much more difficult once the baby is born. Will has already developed a strong protective instinct toward his son or daughter. That's why Will felt compelled to go check on Luna after she arranged for her cellmate to give her a shiner. Fans of B&B will recall that the prison doctor contacted Will, who ran to check on his baby's well-being. Will's concern for his child will grow as Luna's due date approaches. Electra may begin to worry that she will not be able to overcome this constant reminder of Luna. This baby is an extension of Luna in some respects, and Electra may eventually decide she cannot manage it. When it comes to this little one, Bill Spencer, Don Diamont, is convinced that he can fully remove Luna from the picture. Katie Logan, Heather Tom, also stated that the child would never know Luna was his or her mother. Before the baby arrives, Electra may surprise Will and prompt him to consider adoption. If Luna's parental rights are terminated, Will may choose to give the baby to a new family. Katie and Bill clearly intend to help with the baby, but Electra may believe this will keep Luna's child too close. If Luna flees or devises another way to sow havoc, it might lead to catastrophe for everyone. Electra is frightened that they will never fully be free of Luna unless Will gives the baby to new adoptive parents. Electra might see that as a solution to her romantic troubles with Will. Perhaps Electra will be honest and declare that she is not interested in being a mother figure to Luna's children. Electra may believe she is incapable of fully accepting this child, and she is aware that this will be a problem if Will is in daddy mode. Will Electra nudge Will toward adoption, or perhaps issue an ultimatum? Could Electra make Will choose between keeping the kid and preserving their love together? According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Will and Electra will face more Luna-related turmoil. Electra stood in the quiet kitchen of the old Victorian house, which still reeked of Luna's lavender candles and the faint metallic flavor of hospital antiseptic that had clung to everything following the accident. The will lay open on the scarred wood table like a gutted fish, its pages curling at the edges from the steam of the kettle she'd forgotten was on. Marcus's handwriting, precise, lawyerly, and always a little too proud of its own flourish, spilled over the lines. And to my sister Electra, I entrust the care of our unborn child, should Luna not survive the birth. She read it 3 times. 4. The language did not alter. They simply became heavier, like wet wool dragged across her chest. The baby started sobbing again upstairs. Not the delicate, creamy whimpers of a baby finding hunger, but the savage, throat-scraping howl of a child who had learned far too soon that the world was a place where moms vanished between contractions. Electra's hands shook as she poured tea that she refused to sip. Chamomile. Luna had sworn by it during her morning sickness. Calms the soul, she'd whispered, caressing her belly in gentle circles while Marcus looked on with that bewildered, horrified look men have when they realize they're about to become parents. Electra had been present that night. The delivery room smelled of blood and terror, and the fluorescent lights were very sterile. She'd held Luna's hand as Marcus paced like a caged animal, his tide dangling, repeating, "It's okay, baby, it's okay," until the words lost their meaning. Luna had been laughing between pushes, truly laughing because the pain was so intense that it looped around into something silly. "Tell me again about the cabin," she exclaimed. "The one with the crooked porch, where we'll teach her to fish." The bleeding began. Not the dramatic burst of a movie, but a creeping, insidious seep that the doctors pursued with growing franticness. Luna's hold had loosened. Her eyes, those stupid violet eyes she'd inherited from a long-forgotten Greek grandmother, focused on Electra with sudden, horrible clarity. "Promise me," she'd said, blood oozing from the corner of her mouth. Electra had pledged, "If I don't let her grow up broken. Don't let her be what we were." Of course she did. What more could she do now that her sister's life was pouring out between them? Now 3 weeks old, the baby, Amelia, named after their grandmother, who drowned herself in the quarry after the mill closed, knew Electra's heartbeat wasn't right. She rooted on Electra's chest in wild, savage frustration, little hands banging against the spot where Luna's heart should have been. The social worker arrived on a Tuesday that smelled like frost and wood smoke. Mrs. Delgado, wearing sensible shoes and carrying a clipboard full of forms that reduced human pain to checkboxes. "Miss Hart," she said gently, "the Parkers are ready to meet Amelia whenever you are." The Parkers, 34 and 36, respectively. Prior to inheriting his father's construction company, he taught high school biology. She painted children's books about bold hedgehogs and worried squirrels. They had a golden retriever named Muffin, and a nursery painted the exact color of buttercream Luna had chosen before her death. Their adoption profile included a photo of them standing in front of a fireplace adorned with small knitted stockings, one for each of the 3 children they wanted to have eventually. Electra discovered the profile at 3:17 a.m. during one of Amelia's screaming outbursts. The agency's website loaded slowly, with each page revealing a new treachery. There they were, Sarah Parker with her lovely brown locks and sweet eyes that crinkled at the corners just like Luna's. David Parker, with his calloused hands and the calm look of a man who had waited years for this opportunity. They were perfect. That was the problem. "I need more time," Electra informed Mrs. Delgado, who nodded with weary compassion as if she had heard this before. "Of course. But the longer Amelia bonds with you..." The words hung unresolved, sharp like broken glass. "The longer Amelia bonds with you, the more difficult it will be to let her go. It will be more difficult for her to form a bond with another person. The longer she remains in this mansion, which smells of grief and lavender, the more she misses her parents." Electra brought Amelia to the attic that night. The one with the sloped ceilings and the boxes of Luna's belongings that she had never been able to unpack. There was a rocking chair up there, oak, hand-carved by their grandfather before he drank himself into the same quarry that killed his wife. Electra sat and rocked, Amelia falling asleep on her shoulder, small breaths warm on her neck. Luna's bridal dress was in the corner, still in its preservation box. Electra had intended to donate it months ago, but whenever she grabbed for it, her hands froze. She opened the box with shaking fingers. The clothing smelled of cedar and something faintly sweet, Luna's perfume, which Marcus had purchased for her in Paris during their honeymoon. Electra sank her face into the lace and sobbed silently, with heaving gasps that shook them both. Amelia stirred and made a small distressed noise. Electra forced herself to stay still. "Shh, baby girl. Aunt Ellie has you." But she didn't. Not really. She was 28 years old, had a studio apartment full of unfinished sculptures, and worked at a community college teaching figure drawing to freshmen who couldn't combine flesh tones to save their lives. She had $2,300 in savings and a cat who detested children. She had nightmares about the night Luna died, and she screamed into pillows to avoid waking the neighbors. She has nothing to offer this youngster save the weight of generational damage. Their mother was a painter who blended her colors with liquor and misery. Their father had been the man who bought alcohol that week. Luna and Electra had learned early on that love was a transaction, affection exchanged for silence, ignoring bruises, and pretending that turning off the electricity was an adventure. Luna had escaped into Marcus's steadfast arms and his promises of eternity. Electra had disappeared into clay and metal, the chilly comfort of things that would not abandon you. Amelia deserved more than either of them. The Parkers' house was on a cul-de-sac surrounded by maple trees that turned the color of dried blood in the fall. Electra drove past it twice before parking 3 blocks away, worried they'd notice her sitting in her crumpled Civic with a damaged windshield and a baby seat that still smelled like new plastic. She observed from a distance as Sarah Parker placed a sunflower and burlap wreath on the front door, pleasant in its domesticity. David Parker emerged carrying grocery bags and paused to kiss his wife's temple. The motion was so casual and well-practiced that Electra felt something inside her burst open. This is what normal looked like. This is what Amelia would get if Electra could just let go. She went to the graveyard instead. Luna's tomb was still covered in raw earth, with no monument yet in place. Marcus' name was engraved next to hers, despite the fact that his body had been burned due to his mother's insistence on not having him stuck underground. Electra sat cross-legged in the grass, arranging the wildflowers she had chosen from the wayside. Black-eyed Susans and Queen Anne's lace. Luna adored anything that grew wild. "I can't do it," she mumbled into the mud. "I can't keep her, but I can't give her away either. She's all I have left of you." The wind blew her words away, scattering them among the headstones like seeds that would never grow. Mrs. Delgado called the following day. The Parkers would like to meet Amelia. Just meet. No pressure. Electra agreed because refusing would have required energy she did not have. They gathered in a neutral setting, the agency's visitation room, with its fading nautical decor and toys that had been overly loved by too many bereaved children. Sarah Parker donned a delicate green sweater that made her eyes appear like sea glass. David Parker had brought a board book about infant animals finding their mothers. Amelia, traitor that she was, approached Sarah without hesitation, curled into the curve of her arm, as if she'd been waiting all her life for this perfect fit. Sarah's eyes welled with tears as she caressed the baby's exquisite brow with one delicate finger. "She's beautiful," she said quietly. "She looks just like her mother." Electra's throat tightened. She managed to nod. David cleared his throat. "We understand how difficult this is. We, too, lost a baby 2 years ago at full term due to a cord accident." His voice cracked on the final word. "We know what it's like to have your entire world end in a single moment." Sarah reached across the space between their chairs for her husband's hand. "We'd love her so much," she replied simply. "We'd tell her about you both every day, about how brave her mother was, how much she was wanted." Electra made a sudden appearance. "I have to go." She dashed to the restroom, vomiting chamomile tea and bile into the sink. When she looked up, she saw a stranger in her reflection, hollow-eyed, wild-haired, with the face of someone falling apart. That night, she packed Amelia's belongings. Luna had carefully folded the small onesies. Marcus stitched the blanket during Lama's classes, dropping stitches and muttering under his breath. Amelia enjoyed chewing on the toy giraffe with one eye. Each item entered the diaper bag like a stone thrown into quiet water, causing waves of new pain. At 2 a.m., she carried the bag downstairs and placed it near the door. Then she got back up and lifted Amelia out of her cot. The infant blinked awake and made a tiny coo of recognition. Electra placed her face against Amelia's warm neck crease and inhaled milk, baby shampoo, and something indefinably new. "I'm sorry," she muttered. "I'm so sorry. But you deserve sunlight. You deserve someone who isn't drowning." She clothed Amelia in the white costume Luna had chosen for her coming home from the hospital day, white with small yellow ducks. Carried her down the steps, which creaked in all the usual places. He hesitated at the door, which had flaking paint and a brass knocker styled like Luna's favorite lion. The Parkers lived 43 minutes away. Electra knew because she drove it twice before, timing the route like a burglar casing a bank. She could arrive by 3 a.m. leave a note for Amelia on the doorstep. Like something from a Victorian novel. Like the worst form of cowardice. Instead, she drove to the quarry. The moon hung low and orange over the sea, transforming the surface into beaten metal. This was where their grandma had entered with her pockets full of stones. Their mother had threatened to follow more times than Electra could count. Luna used to make dark jokes about the family's talent fading. Electra sat on the hood of her automobile, Amelia sleeping on her chest. The night was cool enough that their breath mingled with faint clouds. An owl called from somewhere in the distance. "I could keep you," she told the sleeping baby. "We could be ghosts together in that big house. I could teach you to sculpt, and you could teach me how to be soft. We could eat cereal for dinner and never answer the phone and pretend the world ends at the front gate." Amelia woke up and began to make a slight protest. "Or I could give you to people who have room for joy. Who aren't carrying 3 generations of damage in their bones. Who can give you siblings and golden retrievers and Christmas mornings that don't end in screaming." She was still weeping. Has she ever stopped? The sky became pale at the edges, as weak tea. Electra watched the sun rise over the quarry, where so many of her kin had chosen death over life. Then she put Amelia back in her car seat and drove to the Parkers' house. She did not abandon her on the threshold. Instead, she rang the bell at 5:47 a.m., standing there in her rumpled clothing, dry tears on her face, and Amelia starting to complain about morning hunger. David Parker responded in PJ pants and uncertainty, which swiftly turned into something achingly gentle when he saw the baby. Sarah emerged behind him, her hair ruffled from sleep and eyes open. Electra? I can't. Her voice broke. I can't be what she needs. But I need to know she's loved. Really loved. Not just kept. Sarah took a hesitant step forward, as if Electra were a wounded animal about to escape. Would you like to come in? Have some coffee? We have formula. We keep it just in case. Electra shook her head. I just need to know you'll tell her. About Luna. About how she laughed when she was in pain because it was better than crying. About Marcus teaching her to fish before she could walk. About me. That I loved her enough to let her go. David's husband's arms were around her while she reached Amelia's side. The infant left readily, rooting against Sarah's shoulder with familiar desperation. Every day, Sarah pledged. We'll tell her every day until she understands, Electra said as she handed her the diaper bag. Inside were the giraffe, the blanket, and a letter she had written at 4 a.m. With shaky hands. 8 pages of everything she could think to say about her sister, the kid she'd never get to see grow up, and the unique way love could destroy you by making you better than you ever imagined possible. She kissed Amelia's forehead one final time. The baby now smelt like Sarah, with a sweet and pleasant scent. It's like belonging. Then Electra returned to her car and drove away, not looking back. She didn't notice Sarah Parker collapse to the floor in the foyer, embracing Amelia and sobbing into her little exquisite neck. I didn't see David close the door with quivering hands and lean against it, as if the weight of the moment would crush them all. She drove till the town gave way to frost-silvered cornfields. She pulled over on a remote stretch of road and shouted till her throat bled. Then she sat in silence as the light rose higher, warming the world that no longer housed her niece. Months later, the agency sent photos. Amelia, Millie now, because Sarah said it suited her, sitting up in a high chair covered with sweet potato, smiling with 2 new teeth. Millie wore a pumpkin costume that engulfed her whole. Millie fell asleep on Muffin's golden back, her hand entangled in silky fur. Electra stored them in a shoebox under her bed, with Luna's bridal gown, which she still couldn't bear to part with. Some evenings, she pulled them out and caressed the contour of Millie's cheek, amazed at how much she resembled Luna when she smiled. She never paid a visit, never called. The Parkers sent updates anyway. First steps, first words, Mama, aimed at Sarah with lethal accuracy, and the first day of preschool in a little ladybug-shaped bag. Electra gave classes and created sculptures that sold for more money than she knew what to do with. Dark things, bronze figures clutching for something just out of reach, mouths open in mute moans. Critics described them as haunting. She described them as honest. On Millie's 3rd birthday, she received a package. Inside, there was a drawing of a woman with wild black hair and sad eyes, made with crayons. Sarah wrote on the back in her precise handwriting, "She asked me to send this to Aunt Ellie, who lives in the moon. She says you watch over her when she sleeps." Electra mounted it on her refrigerator with a giraffe magnet. That night, she opened a bottle of wine to toast the empty kitchen. To choosing a harder thing, she told the darkness. To love someone enough to break your own heart into pieces small enough for them to carry. Somewhere across town, Millie Parker awoke from a nightmare and contacted her mother. Sarah approached her, soothing her back to sleep with the song Luna had enjoyed, something ancient and Greek about stars falling into the sea. The plush giraffe in the nursery's corner kept watch, its remaining eye hazy with age and devotion. And at her downtown workshop, Electra molded clay with hands that no longer shook as much, creating something new. 2 figures this time, reaching not away but toward each other across an inconceivable distance, fingers almost but not quite connecting. Some loves, she had discovered, were measured not by closeness, but by the space you were willing to give them to bloom. Some families were formed not via blood, but rather through the decision to let go, despite all instincts. She spent 6 months creating the sculpture. When she was finished, she titled it Absence and anonymously gave it to the children's hospital where Millie was born. Luna had died while laughing. Electra had discovered that admitting one's inadequacy was sometimes the most courageous thing a person could do. And somewhere in a buttercream nursery, with a golden retriever snoring beneath the crib, a little girl with violet eyes dreamed of a woman who lived in the moon, watching over her with hands that had molded the earth into something beautiful out of broken hearts.